We'll open this meeting. I'll call it to order right now. It's 9 o'clock, according to the clock on the wall and the computer here. So with that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and then a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Chaplain Wooten, if you will please help us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Bow your heads. Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the commissioners that are here, the representations, whether it's 4-H, the EMS building, or whatever agenda or new report that's going in today. And we just ask you to be a part of that. We ask that you just give us a chance to breathe and have compassion and heart and know we are doing the right things for this county. Father, thank you so much for everything that you do with us. Be with each one of our families, whether we're going through trials, tribulations, or a new baby. Father, I just ask and thank you for everything that you do in our lives. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. I'd like to welcome everybody here today. Looks like we got a pretty good crowd. With that, as part of our welcome announcements, we have a group with the Reno County 4-H that has an invitation they would like to extend. So that being next on the item, if you would step forward, please. You might introduce yourselves.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Cora, and this is Tegan, and we're part of the Reno County 4-H Ambassadors, and our job is to promote 4-H as a whole to new kids and maybe just community members. And so today we're here to invite you to the Reno County Fair, which is July 23rd through the 28th, and it's hosted at the State Fairgrounds. We also have an invitation to the awards luncheon, which is the 28th at noon, and so we're going to hand this to you.
Well, thank you. I think Sandra has requested that we have a picture with you for both your publication and counties.
Yeah, and Mr. Bugner, we've got Clint Lanning, Reno County Fair Board President, got some invitations and tickets to the Blue Ribbon Barbecue on Sunday as well. So we'll just hand everything out to you guys at once and a schedule. So
seeing as how Sandra has an idea to promote this a little bit,
let's do it.
Forgive, we got to hand these out before we're done here, or you can start. Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda today is public comment on items that are not on our agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that has something they want to speak to or address at this time? Seeing none, next item on the agenda would be determine additions or revisions to the agenda.
Chairman Bogner?
Yes.
Staff would like to do an executive session on legal matters at the end of the meeting. And that's not on the current agenda, so we just like that noted.
Legally, do we vote to add it,
If you would just,
consensus, or?
if you, when you make your motion to accept the agenda, if you just add that statement that accept the agenda with an additional executive session at the end, please.
Okay. All right, with that, do we have well, let's put it this way. This consent agenda has 2 items on it at this point. I guess it'd be best to add this. Is there a motion to go forward, accept the agenda with the addition as requested by staff?
I would move to accept an amended agenda based upon information from the staff to be an executive session added at the end of the meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. After reading the materials, is there any discussion as to the consent agenda before we vote? Seems to me that there's not much question on anything. Pretty simple consent agenda. So, Autumn, would you please have a roll call?
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes. Motion passes. We have several business items in our next agenda item. 7A being...
Commission, Chair,
Yes.
that was a motion on the agenda, and so
You're
I
all
believe
right.
we need to go on the consent agenda now. Vote on the consent
Correct,
agenda.
correct. Sorry. Thank you. So now we have a corrected agenda. Now, do I hear a motion to accept, or a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
I'll motion for that consent agenda.
God, nobody's moving. They must not want to get out of here. I'll second that for you, Richard.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none. Autumn?
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes. Now we can go on to 7, our business items, and at 7A happens to be Horizon's quarterly report.
Good morning, Vicki Mader with Horizons Mental Health Center. I wanted to start off my report today with what we like to call a mission moment to share with you. Horizons has an individual placement and support program which helps individuals with mental health struggles find employment. And the staff were sharing with me recently that we had an individual who had been looking for work for about 3 years. And our team has been able to successfully find them employment. They have actually been employed now for a full year and are getting ready to buy their first car so that they can drive themselves to their job because we assist with that. And so it's just really fun to see the work that the teams do have a really positive impact on our community, and just wanted to share that with you guys. That program helps support them not only find the job, but during employment. So we can help the employers and we help the the individual on the job too. So, next thing I wanted to do is formally invite you guys to a town hall that we're having at the end of July. We're sending out invites this afternoon. That town hall is in conjunction with the Association of Community Mental Health Centers of Kansas, and we are going to go over the things that are happening statewide related to mental health and what's going on here in Reno County and our other counties related to mental health. So just wanted to share that, so you're expecting that in your inboxes so that you can join us for that. All right, now to the just kind of our quarterly report. It's a little bit different view. Wanted to share some data with you around the services being provided and how that looks over time for Reno County, and this is specific just to Reno County. We've been providing services in quarter 3 of 2025. We're up to 3,497 people received services for us in that quarter, and that's the highest it's been for the year. Service counts are anywhere from 56 to 65,000 services in any given quarter, averaging 9 to 12 hours or 9 to 12 services per person per quarter. So I wanted to share that with you. It continues to grow. We're not seeing a decline really. So I also shared with you our service mix. That's just basically kind of giving you a breakdown of the types of services that we're providing. We provide a lot of community-based services, and that is what CPST is, Community Psychiatric Treatment and Support, where we're out in the community. And then, we have our therapy and our med services. So that's just informational for you. The other thing I wanted to share is some of the community events that we're doing. So we provide mental health first aid training, and we're pretty excited that our 2 mental health first aid trainers were recognized as providing the most mental health first aid training to first responders in the state of Kansas. And so we're really excited about that. And it lists in here who we've provided those services to. For Reno County, we've provided it to the Reno County Health Department, the Hutch Fire Department, and we continue to work with agencies to provide that more often. Mental health first aid for first responders is really a program that allows not only them to understand mental health needs when they're out doing their job, but also provides them tools to help them with each other so that they can recognize when their peers need help or need support. And so it's a really great program designed for first responders because they do really hard work. And then it just kind of gives some other community education that we've done throughout the last 2 years, or calendar year 24 and 25. Any questions? I hope by the next time I'm here that we will be able to have had our open house for the Wiley building. So we are going to be leasing the Wiley building downtown, doing a little bit of construction, and that is going to be a hub for our adult community services. We feel like we need to have a presence in this part of town based on some data that we've pulled regarding who says they need mental health services and where they live. And so we're really excited that that's going to be a hub for those adult services. And so hopefully we'll have that open within the next few months. Are you leasing space there, or are you leasing the whole building? No, just some space. We're just leasing the back part of the building. I think tech used to be in there. And so we're just leasing that.
Well, again, thank you for your innovation and trying to reach out and do stuff. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, we appreciate all of you. Any other questions? All right.
Well, it looks like you gave a good report.
I guess. Thank you for your time.
Very busy.
So, with that, the next item on our agenda is Kansas State Fair request for an emergency command center. Brian, yes.
Yes, sir. Brian Schultz.
today's been a day. But anyway, Brian, what do you have for us?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commission. I'm Brian Schultz. I'm the General Manager at the Kansas State Fair. We are 58 days away from the 2025 Kansas State Fair. I come before you today to request funding support for a emergency operation command center that we have been talking about for the Kansas State Fair for the last couple of years. We have finally got to the point where we are working with an architect to start the designing of it, and so I'll give you a little bit of background on it. When I started here a little over 4 years ago, one of the things that I noticed was that our emergency services really weren't connecting. So we started an emergency operations committee for the State Fair, where we brought in EMS, fire, police, sheriff, the highway patrol, all the entities, including the Department of Corrections. And we sit down at least once to 4 times between January and the State Fair, and then do a recap afterwards, how we can work together to make sure that if an incident happened at the Kansas State Fair, we were ready for it and that we were all talking and on the same page. Since that point in time, we have, this committee has really gelled together and put together a lot of information. We put in a IAP, an incident action plan, that the Hutch Fire Department manages every year for us. That plan looks at day by day of all the events that happen on the Kansas State Fair. So we look at the weather, we look at the number of crowds, the type of concerts, the type of events that we have on there. And then that is sent out to our committee members, which are made up of all of our EMS facilities in Reno County, the city, and in the state that are part of this. So we have an idea of what's going on. We also meet every morning at 9 o'clock at the Fire Station 1 to kind of discuss the day, how things are going to happen. We've also implemented another plan of a green to red factor. So if we start seeing things that are going on the grounds, a standard would be the green. If we start seeing where things are highlighting, where we're having some dehydration, some, with the weather and stuff like that, one of our committee members or one of our teams can call that to the next level, which will implement a new part of our policies that say, we're going to need some additional staff, we're going to need this, that, or the other thing. And as soon as that is corrected or we're starting to level out, we bring it back to the original green. So we have implemented a lot of different things. The one thing that we haven't had the opportunity to do is to create a year-round facility, an emergency command center, where all these individuals can be in the same place at the same time. If you look at some of the incidents that have happened across the country, most of these facilities or communities have an incident command center within the footprint of the event, and they're able to get to that facility and be able to come in as a team and create a plan of how we're going to deal with this situation. So that is where the emergency command center idea came in to play. We are looking at the corner of 20th Avenue and Main Street, which is the former Fire Station 1. What this facility will encompass is a events operation, like I stated, for all of our EMS services, fire, all those. Because when you have about 330,000 people on the grounds, we need to have easy access with that. We also do about 600, between 500 and 600 other events on the grounds year-round, and this would also give us an opportunity to have a meeting place. The Kansas Highway Patrol currently is housed within our administration building at the Kansas State Fairgrounds. Their facility is very small. We also have our VIN inspection location. That is where people will come in and obviously get their VIN numbers checked, and that actually creates kind of an issue as well because of the parking situations. When you get semis coming in and big campers, that parking lot is very limited. We've had many accidents that have happened in there. So the idea would be to move the VIN inspection also over to our new facility, and then also the highway patrol over there. We also see that the Kansas State Fair is a soft target, and a Department of Homeland Security classifies fairgrounds and similar public venues as soft targets. And this is where they're very difficult to secure and very vulnerable to threats. As we know, across the country nowadays, venues and events are being targeted because they have large numbers of people. So that's another reason why we feel that we need an opportunity to get everybody together. The Kansas State Fair, with the assistance of Sarah Sipp with Landmark Architects, who is the architect of record for the Kansas State Fair, started putting together an ideal of what the facility could look like. And I think, Mr. Partington, if you could put that up there. Yeah, if you could, that would be great. So as you can see at the top of the screen, that would be on the south side of the facility. And that would be where all of our emergency command areas would be set up. That would be a location for our dispatchers. Currently, we have the Highway Patrol's dispatch and Reno County Dispatch in a very small office in our administration building, so that way they can talk. Prior to that, we had the Highway Patrol up in Salina. We had our Reno County Dispatch at their offices. If we had an issue, one had to call the other, and it would take a little extra time. Now they're sitting right next to each other. They have access to all the cameras. They're able to respond a lot better. So by creating a facility where everybody can be in the same room and being able to talk is a lot easier. And I did say that wrong. On the bottom is facing south. So that's the way that would be set up. On the north half of that building is where the Highway Patrol would have their new headquarters. They would have several offices, and then up in that northwest corner is where the VIN inspection office would be, and that would also create a better opportunity for people in a parking lot that's not used all the time, like on the fairgrounds. You'll also see, because we never know what kind of an event is going to happen, we also have a break room where if we had to go longer term, if it was days or whatever, we'd have the ability to feed people, and then also restrooms with showers if necessary, all ADA compliant. And then a couple other offices within that. As you'll also see on the estimate, last year when I brought this to the legislature, we were estimating that this facility would be about $2.5 million, and with everything going on in the world, Ms. Sipp has stated that it's looking at more closer to a $4.2 million, but she's also looking at it as a FEMA structure, so it'll be a all concrete structure, so if we had an event, that would be a better secured facility. So I come before you today, one of the things that when I did bring it to the legislature this last session, their question was, what is Reno County and the city of Hutch doing to help out with this? And I said, at this point in time, we haven't brought it to their attention, but that is my intentions to do that. And they said, well, we would like to see them have a buy-in on this because it is going to protect your community and your county. And so that was my instructions from the legislature to bring it to you. So my request is that we would have a conversation as far as having Reno County come in as a co-sponsor of this facility, and also having the ability to use it on the off season. If an event would happen, we'd be able to open it up and move forward with it. Like I did at the city commission, I didn't throw out a number. I'm estimating about $500,000 is what we're going to be requesting from both the city and the county. But until we know exactly how much monies we're going to need, what we're going to be getting from the state, we're also writing some major grants for this. We're hoping that we can keep that cost down as well. So at this point in time, I'm open for any questions anyone would have.
Yeah, I have a question. First being, we're being asked to use taxpayers' dollars to put a facility on property we don't own, state of Kansas owns. That's first and foremost, because it might be one thing if we use that permanently, but it's a duplication of our currently owned facilities. Why the legislature would think that we should buy them a building on their property is beyond me. That's first and foremost. And when it comes to the financial end of it, you're asking this of the people of Reno County, and state fair time comes, we don't share in revenues that are created out there. So, and as far as the inspections, the highway patrol is another state agency using that building. If the only time we're going to have anything to do with the building is in a disaster type situation, I think your request is pretty darn steep. You usually don't put money into buildings and infrastructure on somebody else's property. And that's what we're being asked to do here. We're being asked to put it on our money on facilities on state property. We already provide a lot of manpower to the state of Kansas with mandated requests that we work on behalf of the state, and we're not properly reimbursed for the monies we spend already. And it appears to me the state of Kansas is asking the people of Reno County for even more money. I just don't see it. I know in your presentation you say we will have use for it. Actually, this has been housed in Kansas-owned facilities, on Kansas-owned properties in the past. You're wanting to create, and you're crowded. You need more room. I can see that. But that appears to me to be a problem for the state of Kansas and not for Reno County. My opinion, one vote in 5. It may resonate differently with the other commissioners. We will see. Anybody else have any comments?
Brian, I really like what you've done with the state fair and all the activities up there. But I have a question regarding if this was started and looked at in the last couple of years, and there was a building, a fire station on that corner. As far as I know, not in a situation which had to be condemned or tore down, but yet that building was torn down, and now we're coming back in and asking for money, and whether it's state money, county money, city money. Where was the thought that this building, that the old fire station could have been renovated somewhat and used for this same purpose? I'm just curious, where was the thought on why we tear this good building down and want to put up a new building? Yes, the old building might not have served as good a purpose as what you're wanting to build here, which, you know, some of us have looked at emergency buildings and structures before. We went down to Wichita and looked at what their emergency building looked like, and it was great. And I think, and it looks really good here. But I'm just asking, why in the world did we tear down a structurally sound building and now want to come back in and build a $4 million one when maybe a half a million would have done a job with the old building? Not been as useful and handy as this, but I want to know why.
Sure. Commissioner, in response to that, we had Chief Beer look at the building, and he had told us that it doesn't meet ADA compliance. for facilities, and for us to put in extra monies, it was going to be a lot more than what we wanted to put in. And that was his recommendation, that the building be tore down.
Did you ask anybody else to come look at that building?
We didn't,
besides
no.
Chief
And
Bear?
no, we didn't. And that was something after the fact. We probably should have done that, but it was done that way, and obviously there's no way we can go back on it. And kind of just to ask or answer a question that you had posed, when you said that, Mr. Chair, that you don't share with any of the revenue. Well, when we look at the Kansas State Fair, the last economic impact study that was done for Reno County, the city, and for the state, we bring in about $117 million into the community. So the community is seeing a big influx of dollars during the Kansas State Fair and all the events that come in. So to say that there is no sharing of revenue, I would have to disagree with that.
If I'm understanding right, the months that the fair are open, we don't show any additional revenues and taxes from the outside community. They remain level.
Commissioner, to clarify, on the sales tax, the countywide sales tax, our receipts for the month of September don't change compared to other months. There's not a big peak with that month.
So the
So
people
any
who are
additional-
coming into the fair are spending it on the state property, and it's essentially staying there. We're not seeing a rise on our end.
On our sales tax, yeah. Now, there may be businesses that depend on that time of year that help the community, but the county's sales tax receipts don't change during that month. They're flat.
What would our county's use be? And I'm looking at it from the perspective that we've also been looking at a building project that would
That's
try
where
to.
I was going. Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Am I touching on what you?
No,
want
you're
to?
fine. Yeah, that's where I was going to ask. Go ahead and ask it.
We've been looking at a way to put everything together with also the potential, if I remember right, that we might be needing another courtroom in the future. And so we've been looking at that aspect from the county standpoint. And so I guess I would look at it from this standpoint. If there's something in it for the county that we can use our revenue more efficiently and use of this, I'm trying to search through everything, okay? Is there any advantage to us to be able to use this building? And what would you anticipate the county's potential time period or time during that might be available for us to utilize?
We would have to have access to that building for roughly 20 days for the Kansas State Fair. Load in, State Fair, load out. After that, it would definitely be a conversation we could open up, how we could jointly use that facility. I mean, if that was the question.
I think that needs to be a conversation we need to look at.
We have gone and had a meeting with Adam and Randy at one time about how maybe we could come together and create one as for the community as well, or the county. And it was, nothing really has happened with that. But we're open to those. We know that a building to sit there potentially for 300 plus days a year, that might not get used other than what the highway patrol and VIN inspections and stuff would use on their side. We're open to that. We don't want it just to sit there. We want it to be something that our community partners, you and the city, would be able to use as well.
Well, that was the same question I had that he did. But to go on from that just a little bit, because we have looked for a command center, because we don't have the facility currently to house what it takes in an emergency. And who takes the lead on this building in the mobile command? Say an event arises at the fair, who's going to take that in Reno County? Is there state personnel going to do that, or is our emergency management going to lead that?
Well, if an event happens on the grounds, is that what you're saying, or within the county?
Well, it's going to be within the county if it's on the grounds.
Well, if it's
even-
happening
even
during
though
the
it's
10
state fairgrounds.
Yeah, if it's happening during the 10 days of the fair, depending on what the situation is, then we would have, if it was a fire, obviously the chief would pick that up. If it was a tornado, then that whole groups would come in, and we would put our whole plan together and build up from there.
When you
Adam is
say
also.
but when you say we, Brian, I wanted to know because during the whole rest of the year in Reno County, even if it happens on your event facility, Adam's going to be in control of that.
And Adam is part of that committee.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could only see it as if we would take up residency there through the rest of the year if we were going to give you money and Adam had control of things throughout the year. As far as emergency management overseeing, and I kind of go back, I was going to ask the same question about the old building being taken down. Chief Beer is certainly not an architect, so he didn't know anything. And I probably could have answered that question better than he had. But I'm with, these guys said the same things that was on my mind, that it's going to be a little unpalatable to our constituents in the county to spend their money on a building that's going to be state-owned. Unless there was some kind of an absolute contractual partnership and we were going to use that building throughout the year for emergency management, I can't see spending a dime on it, to be honestly. But it does have the kind of facility that I think we could use for mobile command. But my deal with that would be if the fair comes and Adam's not in control of the command, then it's really useless to us because I think he is well-versed in everything that would come up, Homeland Security and otherwise. Why would we not utilize his services?
And like I said, Commissioner, he is part of our committee, and if he's on grounds, otherwise, if it is a situation that happens on the grounds, we take what type of situation is. Like I said, if it's a fire, the chief would probably take command of that to be able to put that all into play. Otherwise, our security is set up by the Highway Patrol. And depending on the situation, that's who would be doing it. But this is an opportunity to get everybody in the same room and then create that command setup.
Anybody else?
I guess I'll chime in. So if we do this building and it does belong to the state, how do we go about getting a contract so that we can utilize it the other 330 days of the year, like you said? But my concern is, I know the Highway Patrol does the state fair, but the Reno County Sheriff's Office has a SWAT team, and they're working with the city of Hutch also. So you're talking about a soft target, and after seeing some of these attacks in some of these different areas, I want them to be able to not just have a radio communication, I want them to have a command area that would be utilized by everybody. But if the Highway Patrol is in charge because it's during the fair, then I want them to work closely with the Reno County. If there's an event, I want it shut down as quick as it can be and have the cooperation that we need. So, but if we can utilize our early response and weather management and other things in one building, that would be great. But that would be, like I said, this is mostly in my district, is in my district of the county, so I'd have to answer to the people that live in the area. So that would be my question.
Just so you know, the parking lot on the north is in my district.
All right.
Just thought I'd throw that out.
So to answer your question, I mean, that is something we can look at doing a contract. We do that quite often with other facilities on the grounds. And we would just have to write a long-term contract with it. But I will say, if it's going to be a 330 days, I mean, it's going to have to be more than $500,000. I mean, we're going to have to sit down and have that conversation of what is your expectation of the building, your usage, and that kind of stuff. And I mean, because that'll be the first question that the legislature is going to ask me when they say, okay, well, you have a $4.5 million budget that you're doing this, and Reno County is taking it for 330 days, and they're giving you $500,000. I know they're not going to stand for that. So that'd be the conversations that we have to have. My reasoning for doing this is to bring it to you so we can start these conversations and get it rolling. So when we go back up to the legislative session this next year, we have answers, because that is the marching orders I received from them when I left this last spring was you come back in the fall with some answers when you come to legislative budget hearings. What is the city going to do? What is the county going to do? What is the highway patrol going to do? And what grants have you got? And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, let's don't construe one thing. I don't know that we have necessarily said we want to have full control over that. I think we want access to it when we need it, because there's not room enough. The way it's set up in here, the highway patrol has that one whole area that would be the logical area in case of a drastic emergency and on time. So I don't know what the rest of the commissioners think, but I think access to that facility is the important thing. And so rather than ownership of it 330 days a year, you see what I mean?
Yes, yep.
Because there's not room enough in their offices and stuff for us to put anybody in there the way it's set up.
Well, and there again, like I said, we can go back to the drawing board if it's something that you guys are looking at creating that facility. We can go back to the drawing board and build it the way it needs to be. That would work for you as well. But that's where the partnership would have to come in.
But I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
That.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
In my standpoint, I don't know the rest of the commissioners, but from my standpoint, I look at it as access to be able in an emergency.
Well, Brian, I'm glad you came today. It's like everything. Some hard questions need to be asked and answered. We're starting to look at it, but what we all need to remember, no matter what level of government is doing the taxes, from your local township to the federal government, the same individuals are supporting every government entity.
Yep.
And we need to do what we can to be most efficient with their dollars. Because in our society, we have those that are in need and taking, and then there are those who are providing. And the ones who are providing are doing the providing on every single level. So we need to be careful how we enter into things, use their money efficiently. And some of that was being discussed today about possible multiple government entities using these facilities. And it's something I feel needs to be talked about, and you brought it forward today, and you start the conversation, you figure out what will work and what won't work. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Was there anybody else that had anything for Brian? Questions, staff, or you guys?
No, I think it certainly gets the ball rolling for us to be able to have a conversation, whether it's a reasonable route to even take. So I think, that'd take conversations even with Adam, I believe, in some of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, at least we know what you're thinking. And we can start preparing, like he says, with our people and asking their opinions. So appreciate your being here, Brian. Next item on our agenda is Station 2 EMS building design.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kyle Stewart, Director of Facilities for Reno County. I'm going to hand out some probable cost estimates. I apologize, they were not included in the peak agenda. I just received these yesterday.
Thank you.
Well, you only had 90%.
That's right. I did receive the 100% drawings. All right, so it's titled Station 2 EMS. It's the Nelson Building remodel for EMS station. So I had sent you the 90% drawings that Hutton, myself, and Dave have worked together on getting completed. Since then, I have received the 100% drawings. There has been no changes to the 90%. That has cleaned up some of the graphical issues with the designs. So as alluded to in the agenda request, construction costs for this building, Hutton estimated as $600,000 for the remodel. So, however, that is the base bid. So if approved today for the design, we'll go out to bid for this project and then see what the cost actually is. In my belief, I think 600 is a little high for my estimations, but they're in the ballpark. So in the bidding section, there is alternates in there. Some of them would increase the price, some of them would decrease the price. So we really have worked hard with Hutton on keeping this cost down as low as possible. The big differentiating factor between the 500 budget and what is now they're estimating at 600, the city is requiring us to put a fire suppression system inside the building. It's about $63,000 to accommodate that. And Hutton's estimation, his materials have went up 18% in the last 18 months from when the original budget number was presented. Are there any questions about the building or anything I presented today to you?
What changed on the fire suppression?
The city is now requiring it to be in there. So prior, the conversations between Hutton and the city, it was not going to be a requirement to have the building fire sprinkled. However, since it will be housing as an occupancy, there will be people sleeping in there. The city is requiring those specific bedrooms to be sprinkled.
I'm sure glad they don't require rentals to have, just because people sleeping in there.
Yeah.
I'm glad they don't have to require that when we can just use a fire extinguisher. I think that needs to be looked at. But I realize it's the same way, but over a certain amount of people, I would think that they'd have to look at it a little more practical if they want to expand the city with regards to having services.
600,000. No, 61,000. I'm sorry, you said was good part of that fire suppression system. And I've had to put them in buildings I've built. So is it building wide or just the sleeping headquarters? And where in the world do we get 60-some thousand for some piping and
Sure. So the way the drawings are currently stated, the suppression system are the bedrooms and the kitchen area of the facility. So alongside this, it would be a new fire main all the way to the city main to tie into it, because the current main is not large enough to handle the demand.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to have a panel and a system to set off sprinklers to communicate.
So it's not the sprinkler system necessarily inside the total cost. It's the infrastructure to get.
That is correct.
And
yes.
Who's responsible for the infrastructure?
So that would be contracted out.
You're saying we need to do that, not the city, to provide water to our facility?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
I don't.
What changed their mind on having to have a sprinkler? Originally, they didn't. Can you give me an idea what that was, Kyle?
Yeah, so.
Because I'll have a conversation with somebody.
Right, so the conversation I heard, I was not present or employed here when these occurred, but originally it was just kind of a question, like, hey, do we need to sprinkle this building?
I mean, I wondered if it was triggered for the storage, the gasoline in the vehicles or whatever, or just purely the kitchen.
It was just purely the kitchen. And
so why not a fire suppression right above the cooktop?
It's a great
and
question.
double rock, 5/8 rock.
Right, so
I mean, those are available. We use one in our facility.
I mean,
most modern houses, like Randy is pointing out, they're putting a cabinet right above the cooking area.
Mhm.
And you know,
I mean, you could put a bottled fire for suppression right above that and a pretty good hood for a whole lot less than 61 grand.
Right, so just for clarification, the kitchen does have a hood in it. That is also a city requirement by code. And the big differences are commercial buildings versus residential
Right.
buildings.
I get that.
So that's a big reason why, hey, since it's a commercial building, we have occupants sleeping in here, it must be sprinkled. So that, some of the difference between like a rental property or any other building type. So I don't necessarily agree with
so
what has been said, but I've had conversations and it hasn't changed the outcome. So they are hard set that it will be required to be sprinkled.
And then you'll have your yearly inspections by the fire marshal
That
and
is
all
correct.
this stuff to contend with.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I'm going to interject a couple things. If we do send this out for bid, I have a request.
Sure.
Because there's a hotel that's been being built for quite a while. They had an update on it, and the person that's in charge was talking about, you know, they would love to have a front door, but it's on a container ship because it's still not unloaded and brought across the country here. So there are very good manufacturers in the United States. So if we're doing something on a building in Reno County, I would really appreciate it if we would utilize some of that workmanship in the United States so that we could get a building done on time. They've been, you know, waiting and waiting on this hotel that we kept hearing, and now it looks like it's not even going to be available until after the fair. So that being said, and they've had plans on that for a long time, when this goes out to bid, I would like to make sure that, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be made here, but I would like it to be available on the equipment that's going into this building, so that doors and fixtures and things that we need are not waiting on a container to get to Kansas. So that would just be something I would interject.
Good thought. And to my, along with the bidding process, I've been very disappointed lately in our bidding process. I don't like the idea of getting a single bid when we put bids out. I think there ought to be some competition. And whether that competition isn't there because certain people weren't aware, and there again, we fight that in every aspect, getting the public aware, and the public in this case are builders, that there is a project. We've had few things come back lately where there was only one bid. That defeats the purpose of the bid process to me. So how do we make sure that everybody who might want to bid on something is aware and gives us as a group an option of, or at least the fair bid process? That's why it was created. So, and it appears to me that if we can't get more than one bid, we can't go out and make people bid on it. I'm aware of that, Kyle. But it just seems counterproductive to me if we can't get more than one bid on some of these projects, because it defeats the whole purpose of the bid process.
I 100% agree with you. To speak on kind of the last project that I ran that had one bid, I spoke with 6 different contractors in Reno County, told them about the project, you know, as much as I could to keep things fair. And then after 30 days, we had one bid. So I asked the question, why, to 2 of the different contractors I had had lengthy conversations with. Some of it was labor availability this time of year. There was one contractor who specifically told me that he does not like doing public bids, for the simple fact that if this building costs this much, then everybody in the county is going to assume that if they want that same building on their property, it's going to be the same cost. So I think there's some things that we can do to get around that, but that would be within the purchasing policy parameters and conversations between the 5 of you and the 3 of us on kind of how we can make this process better. Because what's really difficult from a sealed bid process standpoint is you give everybody essentially a paper and say, this is what you're going to build on.
Mm-hmm.
So while some contractors might be well equipped to build that, other contractors are not.
And they may already have a full agenda and aren't interested.
Correct. So
People available. Their people are somewhere else.
sure.
And I've heard contractors, getting back to Ron and our fire suppression, don't like to do business in the city of Hutch. Point blank.
That is accurate.
They'll tell you, I don't like to do business in the city of Hutch.
Right.
And that's not in our jurisdiction.
And that's very true. I've heard the same thing.
Yep.
So maybe,
That's why I brought up, do I need to have a conversation? I know them very well.
Yeah.
I fought that, but I will tell you, there are worse places to do business, honestly, in the state of Kansas, much, much worse than Hutch. And I think they've made a lot of strides in defense of the city boys. They've made a lot of strides in trying to do things better, but there's always going to be hitches along the way. But is this a complete full bid for building everything on the plans that Hutton give us?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
my only question to follow up with wanting to see more people bid, I completely understand the contracting side of it where, you know, they may not be able to do that. But we had one here a while back where it was very nondescript. It was just a basic layout and very nondescript at what we would do. And I think somebody really missed the boat on that. This is going to come pretty detailed, I assume,
Yeah.
with specifications. And so that'll help some. Some are just apprehensive as to what one person might be doing in a very vague plan as to what the others are doing. So,
Right.
and I will just make this public statement that I know we would have came in under bid on the last one with somebody that I know had that description. And so, but I've also talked to them about paying attention to when the parameters for bidding is and don't miss them dates. Try to cram it in at the last minute. So.
Right.
But yeah, I hope we can do better in the future, but I understand it's a tough deal, so.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So, at this point, I need to get caught up here. Recommendations, move to approve the drawings and schematics, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing today.
To approve it so it can go out to bid, and then you'll get the bid to come back in.
We're not actually doing anything with the money today, and we've talked a lot about the money.
That is correct.
But we're just getting a bid out there so that we have something to, hard numbers to talk about.
That is correct, yes.
So, we've had a pretty good conversation. Is there anything else that wants to be said before we entertain a motion to accept the drawings so that he can go out for bid and we can take the next step forward? Anybody have any more comments?
Kyle, you're the expert on this. You see anything, as you look through this, if you see anything that we need to drop out or look at again, I trust that you will do that and
Yes.
relay that to Hutton.
Yes. So even on the sheet that I handed you that has kind of the price breakdowns of each specific line, some of the amounts look pretty inflated to me. So, but once we get some sort of bid back, then we can have those conversations with the bidders on, hey, you know, a little high here, what can we do here? Is this really required? Type conversations.
Well, and it should be done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's part of your job.
Yep.
So with that, what do you got?
Nothing, anybody else? I was just gonna motion.
Good deal. That's what I was gonna say. Sign.
I'll motion that we approve building design as presented by Kyle and move that out to bid after we approve it.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further conversation before we call on Autumn to help us? Seeing none, Autumn, would you?
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Thank you for your time today.
Kyle. Thanks for enlightening us on a few things.
Dave, you got a smile on your face.
Well, it'll be a great asset where it's going. Yeah. Not trying to throw any water on it.
No, but you also gotta kinda,
Make sure we get what we
yeah.
need.
Okay, station design. Interlocal agreement between Kingman County. Patrick, you wanna
Sure.
fill us in? I mean, we read this stuff, but that's legal. Let's hear it in English.
Well, the good news about this one is I'm not asking you to spend any money, so this is so that's good. No, just to clarify, this is a request from Kingman County regarding the Kingman Reno Fire District, which you are the board of the Kingman Reno Fire District, in addition to being county commissioners. And so the thing about the Reno Kingman Fire District is it's part in Reno County and it's part in Kingman County, right? So what Kingman County is asking is for that fire district to enter into an interlocal agreement for the Kingman County NRP, so that if somebody builds a new commercial property in the portion of Kingman County that's also in that fire district, they would get a rebate of property taxes under the Kingman program for both their county taxes and their fire district taxes for the period of the NRP. So it's just
So they're getting it for their citizens.
yes. So it's just like we did an NRP last week for Reno County. This is not related. It's just the timing's kind of funny because we were just talking about NRP recently on our end. But then in the mail, Kingman said, hey, would you, I think we've done this before. They're just renewing their NRP. And so for the Kingman Reno Fire District, it would give the taxpayers on the Kingman side, not the Reno side, they would get a rebate of the fire district taxes if they qualify for Kingman's program. So they're just asking you to adopt it.
We've done it for our people, they want it for theirs.
Yeah, same. Yep. So that's all this is, but because it just requires your guys' official approval in a meeting to move forward on.
So with that in mind, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second somewhere? Nobody else? I will. I'll second it. Yes. Okay, with that clarification, to approve. Any further conversation before we vote? Seeing none, Autumn, help us out here.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Also, just kind of related to NRPs in general, I'll take a moment to say that the city of Bueller adopted our NRP program with us, and so has Pretty Prairie, and we have some interest from some other taxing entities that we're talking to. So that's moving along as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, the Bueller School District is interested, but they haven't adopted yet. But we'll be talking to them soon. So.
Anything else before we move on? That brings us to 8, which is Randy's administrator reports.
Okay, so in the packet is the monthly reports for the aging public transit, appraiser, automotive clerk, community corrections, emergency management, and facilities. Any questions on anything in their written reports? Okay.
I didn't see anything that was out of line.
Okay.
So,
Couple other things. First, I want to mention in my weekly report, but I wanted to introduce our new public management intern that's split between the city of Hutchinson and Reno County. He's starting with Reno County, so Joshua Chunga is here. So he's been working he started at the beginning of last week, so Joshua, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself, or do you guys have any questions for Joshua?
Good morning, commissioners and everyone. As Mr. Randy mentioned, I am Joshua Chonga and a recent graduate of Wichita State University. I've earned my Master of Public Administration degree, and I'm currently here doing my internship with the county administration. At the moment, I am currently revising the travel reimbursement policy and also looking forward to working with various departments and contributing to the success of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I shook your hand, but I didn't know who you were, so I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
You know, when I saw
Just
you
don't-
back there, we had talked about getting you introduced, and I thought, did I skip over that, or Randy? It's appropriate that Randy introduced you because you're working together, and this is a new program. You're in it for us, the internship, so you're the man that's either going to make it look good or poor in the future. Don't want to throw any weight on your shoulders, but there it is.
Just don't pick up any other bad habits. I don't think they have any, but anyway, just.
Thank you.
Hopefully, it's a great learning experience,
Yes.
so that when you do go on to your career, you'll have some experience to pass along.
Yeah, and that's what the program's all about. So I'm
Nobody's-
glad we can participate.
Nobody said it but welcome. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
feel welcome too. So.
At least we're smiling.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you so much.
Another thing I have, just so you give you a heads up, next week is the budget, or is another commission meeting, and the main items on that agenda are the presentation of the audit for 2024, and for you guys to approve the audit, and then to talk about the county budget for the county's budget and utility district budgets, and that will be the meeting where you will set the maximum budget. I was hoping to get a little bit lower. What I will present to you won't be technically a recommended budget. It'll be where we're at this moment in time when the packet goes out. And so the mill levy right now is higher than I want it to be, and I'm sure you want it to be, but it's looking like it's just over 38 mills. So it's a little over a 2 mil increase of a current mill. As of right now, there are still things that you guys will want to look at probably next week when you set the budget or set the maximum budget. Just wanted to clarify, that's what will go out in the revenue neutral, the R&R notices by the county clerk, because we only have till July 20th to let the county clerk's office know what the maximum budget might be. That will go out. So what you guys said is maximum next week will go out to the public in the statements of here's what your taxes might be. You will have until the public hearing that will be set sometime in September. You'll have between next Wednesday and September that public hearing to make changes. We'll bring it back at maybe a couple different times. I'll send spreadsheets for you guys to work on that will then be publicly displayed and discussed of what you guys are looking at cutting or making changes to. We've already made over $3 million in adjustments from the original budget request and what we had a month ago, a couple weeks ago. But to get to an R&R and this will be in a memo the public memo that will go out later this week, it would take a little over $3 million in cuts to get to a revenue neutral rate, which is the same property tax levy as current year. Not the mill levy rate, but the actual taxes.
And the general public should know that that is the max. We can cut back in this, as you stated, because I want to restate this, make it clear so it's stated twice. But by statute and timing, we're having to say what we're going to do now, and some of this information we need is just getting to us this week to actually set a final budget. So we're probably going to have to give the maximum with the hope of cutting it back, but just the way the timing is in statutes and stuff, we have to have certain paperwork in at this point.
By the time, because of the timeline, by the time that we get evaluations, estimated evaluations from the county clerk and there's a certain calendar they have to follow by the state, that's middle of June. And that gives us 1 month, and having very, not a lot of meetings for the commission to look at. I mean, you guys have looked over the budget request, but you haven't seen the numbers in the state budget form. And until we had that estimated valuation, that's when those numbers are put into that form. So in between that time and now, when you see the possible maximum, is when staff looks at, okay, what are some of the, I guess, low-hanging fruit areas to cut? Where are things that we may not need? Capital that we probably can defer, cash balances and transfers that we can cut and still be in okay condition. I'll let you know that the past 10 years, our rate of valuation or our rate of taxation and mill levy is right in line or a little bit under the rate of inflation over those 10 years. So even if you increase the mill levy, even with the maximum, we're still in line with inflation rates over the 10 years. Because during the past few years ago when inflation rates were really high, Reno County was still going down in taxes. So, and even 1 year did an our revenue neutral rate. So that took a lot of the cash balances took a good portion of it. So now we're at a point where we don't have as much cash balance to use up instead of taxes. So and it'll come to, at some point, cuts will have to be made.
And to be fiscally responsible, we do need to have a certain amount of reserves.
Right. So it'll be either cuts in services or increases in taxes or further cuts in cash. Those are kind of what you're going to look at. But again, I just wanted to bring it up as kind of a preview of next week's meeting. You'll have the maximum, and you can make cuts at that meeting. And from what I present to you, if you guys make changes, but I will tell you, and I'll tell you again next week, it's hard if you make changes during the budget session next week. It'll take time to actually change the state form because there's a process. It's not just going to a spreadsheet and removing a number. You have to then go and recalculate the NRP process. Those rates are tied to a different calculation on a different spreadsheet. So it really isn't just changing a number on one page of a spreadsheet. It takes time. So if you make changes to the presented maximum, I'll be recommending next week to come back and give us some time to double check the numbers before we set that maximum. I wanted you to have a heads up. So if you see things in between, let me know. Obviously, not all of you can let me know, but I would then bring proposals and possibilities to the next meeting.
But guys, we got to remember the state statutes being what they are. Every government entity is going through the exact same thing we are. I was talking to a friend of mine on the school board, and he asked me, well, you're in budgets. I said, well, you are too. And he made the exact same comment you made. You're really being forced to make a preliminary assessment, and the timeline doesn't allow you to have everything right now to do it. So you're forced to do what we're going to have to do. It's not, yeah, I want to vote that way or no. It's you're forced to, and then you work with the real numbers later. And I'm sure every mayor, every entity all the way up and down the line, school boards, everybody's right where we're at. It's just the way the system is.
Another thing I wanted to kind of mention is maybe get some feedback. We're getting to that time of year where we're going to have board appointments. We're going to start publicizing for upcoming county board appointments. I wanted to kind of check in general, and there may be questions on one or two, but when the administrative policy that was created a couple years ago said any openings, even if they're reappointments, would go through the same process of 90-day publication, go to the county chair, the chairman to look at, and then come to the county commission. I bring this to your attention. Is there any intent or desire for you guys to have that change to where if there's a reappointment of a board member and they want another term, that we don't open it, it's not really open up to the public in the same manner if there's an assumption that there's going to be a reappointment, if that makes sense, versus opening where there's a vacant position, someone's termed out, or they're not interested in being reappointed. Kind of wanted to get your guys' feelings. Don't need a decision today, but it's been brought up to me as a question about at least one board, but there's multiple boards that we have that will be coming up in the near future.
We run into that on the planning board quite often where there's a reappointment.
Yeah.
And it's kind of redundant. If they want to do it, they get reappointed for us to have to really look at.
And that's kind of, I mean, there's that board, there's, the health advisory board, the aging and transit.
There's just one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's an easy, yeah.
Well, and if they're volunteering to do it again, then I would say they shouldn't have to go through the same process they did to get on the board to begin with.
Patrick,
Yeah.
as the recommendation stands, we should go through that process and open it up. The way it's written currently.
The way it's written currently, that's how it was written, was just every time publish it with the and kind of make people reapply for their current board seat is how it's kind of written. I would say that's true. But
and I can see both ends of it. Many times it's money and time lost because you publicize it and you do these things. On the other hand, if you have somebody who the general public is not pleased with their actions, let's put it like that, they may want to run somebody else or at least have another consideration, but we end up being the ones that make the consideration, not the general public.
yeah, I agree with the statement. There's pros and cons to both sides of ways of doing it, and staff don't want to make the decision. We want it's for you guys, so we have to throw it to you.
And we can change the policy it's an administrative policy that was kind of approved by the commission, but it's not like a resolution. It can be changed if you guys want us to. If that's kind of the consensus, I would bring something back for consensus, but I didn't want to do that work if you guys are happy with the way it works now.
I personally am satisfied with our current policy because we make the final decision anyway. And if someone else has interest in that, we're not spending any money, extra money to make that position available or knowledgeable to the public. It goes out on our website and we make the final decision. If someone else is interested in that position, it's good to know. That's where I'm at right now.
I would stand with that myself. I mean, so many of them get reappointed was kind of my statement, but you're right. We have had some other interest at times, and I would hope that the directors or whoever that's, heading these boards would certainly bring that to us if they have a problem. So we could be thinking about a reappointment or something if we need to.
Sounds like a kind of a general consensus is leave our hands off. Richard, what were you thinking?
No, I think that's a good, because, and I would like to see, somebody was talking about some project or something and they're like, it went away and now it's back. And, And it's like, well, the volunteers that they had disappeared or, got tired and decided not to do it. So I would hope, we always talk about the young people in the community being the new leaders, and I would hope that there would be some younger people that would want to get on some of these boards and have some say in what's going on. So I would encourage anybody, if you're interested in any of the boards that are out there, to look at it, and if an opening comes up or if there's a time where it's going to change a little bit, to apply for it.
Okay, I'll leave it as is, but that's the only thing I had in my report.
If that ends your report, I'd say comments by county commissioners would be next, and then we'd have that executive session. Richard, what do you have this week? Anything that you want to?
I guess. So we actually went to the Skyrider Drum and Bugle Corps event Monday night, and it was awesome. There was a good crowd there. I actually had a chance to, in the late 70s, to be on Skyriders. Wasn't able to come through at that time, but I've always kind of watched them, and then they disappeared, for 30 years, 3 decades. So they're back now, but they did their theme for their shows this year is home, and it just shows the state of Kansas and where we live. So home is where they're at, and they actually are playing some music from the group Kansas. Philip Phillips and Higley and Kelly is a standard, but anyway, the event was awesome. They had kids from all over the state, high school and college age kids. And it sounds like the program's coming off the ground pretty good, and they're getting ready to go do a set of shows. They would like to, if they get the chance next summer, and they stayed at the college dorm, so the college donated space for them to stay and food and some other things, and then a bunch of other people did also. But they would like to maybe stay 2 weeks next time and do their little show again, but maybe bring another drum and bugle corps to participate also. So anyway, it was just fun. And then we were invited to some 4th of July fireworks shows at some local churches and some other organizations, and just were blown away by the patriotism that was being shown, and just people, smiling faces, people happy to be in America and Americans. So it was just fun to see. But that's all I have.
Ron?
We attended a SCED meeting at the end of last month, and attended the SCED meeting at the end of last month, and got a review of the pre-audit information, and it looks very positive from the standpoint financially. The board has done a lot of good things with regard to efficiency, and especially when you look at the fact that there's about 9 different loan programs and a couple of grants, and the weatherization that includes not only Reno County but about 39 other counties in the southern part of Kansas. And we'll have as soon as I get the letter from them, we'll have a nomination appointment for another person from Reno County to be on the board of directors. And it's a very needed position because the requirements of SBA and some of our loan agencies require committees that include those with financial loan backgrounds. And so that's the case. I just want to congratulate also all the FFA recipients that received a certificate of excellence in their areas of work, and they've done a lot of their study and a lot of their work, and just There was a number from Bueller, as well as maybe some others around that received that certificate, especially in the other adjoining counties. So congratulations to those who received the FFA Certificate of Excellence for. And just like you, attended South Hutch Freedom Fest. Great program, great kids. I was amazed at how many people came down to watch the fireworks on the 5th of July. They're just everywhere. So, great time to celebrate their 249th anniversary.
I don't have a whole lot. We did attend the parade that came up, the Patriots Day Parade. Quite a lengthy parade. I walked in that with some other people and passed out candy, but it was a great day for it. It's very cool outside and very, very nice. But yeah, a lot of participation in that, so, but a lot of fun. I always have fun doing that. It's fun seeing the faces when you walk by them, who you know or who you don't know, and some of them will holler at you that you don't know, but they know who you are. So always got to behave yourself. But also be attending a couple of meetings coming up. One of them will be at the Highlands on Monday, their city meeting, and so I was invited to that. To talk about a couple issues, or at least one maybe, and so I appreciate that invite. It's always nice to hear what's going on in the communities, and so with that, I'll just quit.
Well, for me, there hasn't been a whole lot going on. My world's been the windshield of a truck or a combine. But did sneak away for the 4th of July family get together, and it's always great to see the little guys and how fun it is for them. They know how to celebrate. The other thing I intend on the conservation meeting attending tomorrow out at St. John. Patrick, just a question. I know you're involved pretty hard on the other county. Are they having their annual meeting in the afternoon? Or am I mixing things up or reading something wrong?
What's happening is tomorrow in St. John is the meeting of with the federal. Sorry, I have to get my thoughts together. It's a meeting with several federal agencies that are involved in the Quivira Wildlife Refuge and the local government entities. It's called a coordination meeting, and so the local counties they're meeting with them to discuss it. 2 of those counties, I believe Stafford and Pawnee County, are having a majority of their commissioners there, and so they're going to call it a meeting of Pawnee County and Stafford County, and they're going to keep minutes. The other counties, such as Barton is not sending a majority of their commissioners, so that won't be a meeting. They'll just be attending. I think we might have 1 or 2 commissioners from Reno that may go, depending on if they're able to go, but we weren't anticipating having a majority of Reno County commissioners there. I'll be there to report back on it. So that's why in some of the information you had, it said it's a meeting for those counties that are sending a lot of commissioners there, or in some of those counties might only have 3 commissioners, so 2 of them might be there, so is what's going on.
Well, I was wondering if how that all worked. I mean, we're members. Do we have a vote and things, or what?
No, and so no one. I don't even think the commissioners will vote. What it's called, to take just a second because I find it interesting. It's called a coordination meeting, and in federal law, these federal agencies that administer different federally owned lands in different places are required by law to coordinate with the local governments about what they do.
That's why we joined.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Force that home rule.
Home rule. There's been kind of a movement to a lot of those federal agencies. Some people feel like they have not really coordinated locally. They just kind of do what they do, and so there's been a movement, and the KNRC that we're a part of has really made an effort to enforce that provision and make the federal agencies come out and coordinate with us. So that's the purpose of the meeting tomorrow. It'll be focused on water use issues at I believe it's Quivira Wildlife Refuge, but it'll be a chance for the different counties that are affected by that water use to give their opinion to the federal agencies that are coming.
Well, I intend to, I'm very interested in water issues. Our family is. And I think my brother's going to come with me. The boys are just going to have to do everything themselves. But anyway, I just wanted a little clarification there. I knew we're members, and you're closer to it than a lot of places. So with that, if everybody's done, we'll go on to the executive session. Guys, why don't you read into it? I know it's between us and the attorney, but time-wise, what you need, and you guys know more about that. Just kind of make a motion or give us a suggested motion.
Yeah, I emailed this to the chair, but I think what I wrote was move to enter, the board to enter executive session until, we usually stretch our legs. I don't know if 10:45 will be enough or 10:50. So to move into recess for executive session until 10:50 with the county administrator and county counselor. The subject matter will be legal issues related to the landfill methane lease discussion. And the justification for the executive session is to discuss in private confidential matters. Do it all again. Okay. Sorry.
We're going to have to give him a remote.
Okay. Commissioners are asking for a motion to move the board to executive session until 10:50 a.m. with the county administrator and the county counselor. The subject matter to be discussed will be legal issues related to the landfill methane lease, and the justification for the executive session is to discuss in private confidential matters which are protected by attorney-client privilege.
Patrick, do you expect any?
No, we do not have, this is just for discussion. We do not anticipate any action after the executive session.
Okay, do we have a motion then? And
I'll motion we move to executive session for the reasons that Patrick had read there.
Second it.
we have a motion and a second. A show of hands, please, for a yes vote. With that being said, just for the general public's knowledge, you are surely welcome to come back and for the adjournment, but that's your call, how you want to spend your time. Andrew's got us on air, so we will now bring this regular meeting back to order. Just as a statement, nothing done other than discussion in the executive session. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.